His steadfast love endures forever. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever. Every verse in this psalm is probably a song they would sing back and forth, a chorus. One group sings the first half, the other group sings his mercy endureth forever, because that's in every verse. Okay. Give thanks unto the God of gods, for his mercy endureth forever. Give thanks to the Lord of lords, for his mercy endureth forever. To him alone who doeth great wonders, his mercy endureth forever. To him that by wisdom made the heavens, plural. Genesis 1:1, it should be singular, because later in the next couple verses, he slices it up into 3 slices. But if your Bible has heavens, plural, in the first verse, it's wrong. Throw it away, get a King James. Him that stretched out the earth above the waters, for his mercy endureth forever. This is where carbon dating comes in. Scoffers do not understand how God made the original creation. It says in 2 Peter there would be scoffers who would be ignorant of how God made the heavens and how the earth was standing out of the water and in the water. He stretched out the earth above the waters. What it says, see, the original creation was very different than what you and I are seeing. We're living in a junkyard after Noah's flood messed it up. So in my video number 2, I cover things like what did they eat before the flood? What's the 1,000-year reign of Christ going to be like? Where did all the water come from? Where did it go? Were there giant people over 10 feet tall? Yes, there really were. Okay. Here it is, 2 Peter. Knowing this first, there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lust and saying, where's the promise of his coming? Since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. For this they willingly are ignorant of. In the Hebrew or Greek, that means dumb on purpose. That by the word of God, the heavens were of old. By the time he got done with day 7, it was heavens plural. But in day 1, verse 1, it was heaven singular. Get a King James. And how the earth was standing out of the water and in the water. How was that possible? We'll talk about that in a minute. Also, they're ignorant that the world was overflowed with water and perished. They're ignorant of this flood. And the heavens which are now are by the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire, the judgment of God, okay? So they're ignorant of the creation. They're ignorant of the flood. They're ignorant of the coming judgment of God. And it's coming. So he said, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters. And let it, that would be the firmament, divide the waters from the waters. Well, what divides the water from the water? Some people say, well, it's the dirt, the continents. No, no, no. Keep reading, verse 20. God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly, and fowl, that's birds, that fly above the earth in the open firmament. Well, there's the answer. The birds don't fly in the dirt. The birds fly in the air. God said in verse 14, let the be lights in the firmament. This is the second heaven where the lights are, sun, moon, and stars, okay? And Paul said he was caught up to the third heaven. The only time it's mentioned in the Bible that I know of. So the heavens, plural, declare the glory of God. All right, back to Genesis 1. God made the firmament and divided the waters that were under the firmament, to be under the atmosphere, from the waters which are above the atmosphere where the birds fly. In Psalm 148, God said, praise him, ye heavens of heavens, and ye waters that be above the heavens. Maybe there's another layer of water or ice, I believe, beyond all the stars. Everybody's always wondering, where's the last star? Yeah, and if they find it, then what? What's the next question? What's after that? How far does this universe go? How can you atheists not understand? This is infinite. This didn't all fit in a dot of nothing exploding. You are insane to believe that dumb theory. I think maybe everything we see is in a little glass ball on God's dresser. All the stars, all the planets, everything. God picks it up, shakes it once in a while. How you doing in there, guys? I don't know. But there used to be a layer of air and then crystal canopy above that, maybe 10 miles up. And I think there might still be one way out there beyond the stars. Don't know. But the earth was standing out of the water and in the water. Today, the atmosphere we're breathing has 6 layers to it. There used to be a 7th layer, a layer of ice above. I think it compressed all the air down into probably 10 miles, nearly doubling atmospheric pressure at the surface. I know if you go up when I fly airplanes, go over to Alaska or something, they get way up there. You look at the little TV screen in front of you and it says outside temperature minus 100. That's over the Sahara Desert, it's minus 100, okay? It's called a heat sink up there. So Earth has an atmosphere. I believe there was a crystalline canopy. Now, some creationists do not believe this. They are wrong. I am right, okay? About 10 miles up that made the pre-flood world very different. This is one of the many reasons why they lived to be 900 before the flood. Take a look at the chart. Get the dates from Genesis chapter 5 and Genesis chapter 11. In Genesis 5, it says Adam was 130 when Seth was born, and he lived to be 930. Everybody before the flood is living to be 900. After the flood, it drops off to 400 and then 200 and then 100. That canopy that used to protect them collapsed at the time of the flood. You get these charts, what, 10 bucks? What's the whole package of them cost if you want 6 of them for your placemats? 30 bucks or something. Got a special deal. Call the secretary, 855 Big Dino. We have real heavy laminate. They're perfect when your skeptic friends come for lunch. What's this? I'm not eating off of that. Yeah, I know. Okay. So this crystal canopy was probably ice, not a vapor. And it would block some of the harmful radiation that comes from the sun. X-ray and UV radiation is blocked by a couple inches of ice. Maybe it was held up like an inflatable building, just air pressure. If there's no leaks in it, it can keep itself up there. Or it could be held up by the Earth's magnetic field. I cover all this on video number 7, and video number 2, okay? The Meissner effect is where a magnet floats on top of another magnet. And supercold ice becomes magnetic. At low temperatures, ice is magnetic. The fact that ice is diamagnetic can be demonstrated by hanging an icicle from a very thin string and bring a strong magnet to it. The icicle will twist away from the magnet. Yes, ice is going to, if it's cold enough, is affected by the magnetic field. The Japanese have magnetic levitation, concentrator effect. I don't want to take time on all this. Magnetic ice slides into view, physics world. Okay, scientists create magnetic charge ice. Let's see. Magnetic charge ice is published May 20th issue of Science magazine. Wikipedia, spin ice. Yet the magnetic moments in the temperature range really cold, 0 Kelvin, okay? Now that's absolute 0, pretty close. Can a permanent magnet become too cold to function? Cooling permanent magnets make them stronger magnets. So this is all, I think, nobody argues this is about the science behind this. Ice clouds forming from the shuttle's exhaust drift up to the North and South Pole because they're attracted magnetically because they're ice. The Jews have always taught, in the book of Josephus, you can see that he wrote his story about the same time as Christ. It says, he set the heaven above the universe, surrounding it with ice. Another translation said, he placed a crystalline firmament around it. And the Jews have said it was, I don't know how they know this, but they said it was 3 fingers thick, 2 fingers thick. I don't know, they probably split the church, started the church of the 2 fingers and the church of the 3 fingers. They split over everything. Anyway, it says it was a flattened, solid surface. The Legend of the Jews book, he said, the second day God made the firmament is not the same as the heavens of the first day. It's the crystal stretched forth over the head. He made to crystallize into a solid. The firmament is not more than 3 fingers thick. And a layer of ice surrounding the world 10 miles up would act like an igloo, which keeps the heat in. Igloos can be 49 below outside and 61 degrees in your igloo. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any Eskimo babies ever. Okay. Does ice stop UV light? Does not completely stop it. It can absorb and scatter some of it. So here's the deal. Carbon, atomic number 6, occurs in nature predominantly in the stable isotope carbon-12 and carbon-13. 98.989% of the carbon in their atmosphere is carbon-12. A very tiny, tiny, tiny amount is carbon-14. Its most important radioactive isotope is carbon-14, a weak beta emitter having a half-life of 5,700 years. It's formed naturally in the upper atmosphere by the action of cosmic rays on nitrogen, from ScienceDirect.com. So the nitrogen in the atmosphere, which is 78% of the atmosphere, is struck by these cosmic rays and converts it to carbon-14. The pre-flood world had an ice canopy to block out cosmic rays. Therefore, they had very little C14. So the plants are breathing in carbon dioxide, and today, a small amount is CO2, radioactive CO2. But before the flood, it was even less than that because it couldn't form. This is how the evolutionists just don't get it. It's so simple. The scoffers are ignorant of what the world was like. That crystal canopy ahead would block UV light, which prevents the formation of most of the C14. we dig up fossils that drowned in that flood and automatically would date them much older because we're starting with today's percentage. Radiation strikes from the sun, strikes the atmosphere, produces radioactive carbon-14 that combines with oxygen to make radioactive CO2. A very tiny, plants breathe it in, make it part of their tissue. Animals eat the plants and make it part of their body. I bet during your lifetime, you've either eaten plants or you've eaten animals that have eaten plants for probably just about every meal you've ever had, okay? Willard Libby invented this back in the 1940s after the atomic bomb. He said, wow, produces carbon-14, carbon-14. Here's the way it works. The atmosphere is 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 0.06% CO2, and that's what the plants have to live off of. That's why there are all these morons talking about, oh, look at the carbon emissions from all these fossil fuel burning plants. Yeah, the trees all around that area go crazy. They love it. They absorb it right away. You don't need to go block the highway and let somebody run you over because you're too stupid to get out of the way because you're trying to save the planet from carbon emissions, okay? Carbon-14, the radioactive part, is 0.0000765%. This is the percent of C14 in the atmosphere today. If the pre-flood world had a protection from cosmic rays, there'd be even less than 0.0000. So we dig them up and we're dating them by today's standard, which is stupid. Here's an analogy might make you help, okay? Might help you understand. Let's say we have 128 soap bubbles formed by cosmic rays in a room. Half of them will pop every 6,000 years. I rounded the 5730 up, okay? So in 6,000 years, we will have 64 bubbles left. The others popped. Wait another 12,000 or another 6,000 years, it's only 32, then 16, then 8, then 4, then 2. So if we test a sample and find, wow, that room's only got 2 soap bubbles, got to be 36,000 years. If you start with 164, yes. Now let's enter a room, we find only 4 soap bubbles. We don't know the room was protected from cosmic rays and only had 8 to start with, not 164. Using today's standard, we will date the room at 30,000 years old. But it's actually only had 1 half-life. It's only 6,000 years old. If we started with 164, then these numbers would apply. But the pre-flood world had a canopy overhead, and you don't start with today's numbers. How much did they have when they were there? So carbon-14 is based on the assumption. You know how much was in it when it lived. You can't know that. You know how much, you know it's always decayed at the same rate. There's things that affect that. Watch my video number 7, where I give a whole lot more on carbon dating. So I think this layer of ice was suspended like a magnetic, by the magnetic field or hyperbaric inflatable building. Okay. Current air, let's see. He founded the earth upon the seas and established it upon the floods. He layeth up the depth in storehouses. The depth is always a reference to the ocean. Hast thou entered into the springs of the sea, walked in search of the depth? Proverbs chapter 8. He set a compass upon the face of the depth. Isaiah, ask a sign, ask it in the depth or in the height above. God said, ask a sign, you want something in the ocean or in the air? The Lord said to Ahaz in Isaiah, let's see, ask a sign, ask it in the depth or the height. The Lord himself shall give you a sign, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son. This is the birth of Jesus Christ. In the book of Jonah, Jonah prayed unto the Lord his God out of the whale's belly and said, he cast me into the deep, into the midst of the sea. The waters compassed me, even to the soul, the depth closed about me. So obviously the depth is talking about the oceans, okay? Jesus said, if you offend a child by teaching him evolution, I added that part, you'd be better off drowned in the depth of the sea. So he stretched out the earth above the waters. The water that's now on the surface in the oceans used to be in the crust of the earth. So the original creation had a crystal canopy of ice a few inches thick above the earth, above the atmosphere. An atmosphere maybe 10 or 15 miles, nobody knows, I'm guessing. And then a crust of dirt and rocks to stand on, 10 or 15, 20 miles. And then water under the crust of the earth, probably 1.5 miles. Because the oceans today average 1.5 miles deep if the earth were completely covered. So the water under the crust came to the top. The canopy overhead got shattered when the fountains broke open. And ice being magnetic, it'd be dumped on the North and South Pole. I think the Ice Age happened at the beginning of the flood. And we cover all that on video number 6. Okay. In the 600th year, the same day, all the fountains of the great deep were broken up. I think we still have the scars today where that happened. The fault lines. They're all over the world. World earthquakes, almost all the earthquakes and volcanoes are right on the fault lines. I lived in Fairfield, California for 3 years. Got the San Andreas Fault, the Hayward Fault, the New Madrid Fault. None of them are my fault, but the fountains of the deep is probably where the fault lines are today, where it burst forth. That water went shooting up, would launch rocks off the side and shatter the canopy. So the I'm going on a rabbit trail here, Joseph. I love these rabbit trails. Around the North and South Pole, there are very obvious effects of a glacier, and glaciation, ice age. Yes, the ice age is true. When? At the beginning of the flood. It snowed on the North Pole probably 10 feet a minute and been pushing out toward the equator. But the ice age effects are centered around the old magnetic North Pole, which is moving. Used to be in Canada. It came further south in America than it did in Russia. The ice was dumped on the poles, both of them, at the beginning of the flood. So that would take 400 years for that ice to melt back. So when Noah gets off the ark, the continents are larger because the oceans are smaller because the ice caps are bigger. Duh. Take a long time for all that to melt. That's why they find underwater cities buried and underwater roadways. Huh. You think they built it underwater? No, they built it before the water came up. Duh. It's not complicated. The Bible has the answer. The flood did all that. So if you lowered the oceans 200 feet right now, out of 12,000 average, take 200 feet out, freeze it, stick it on the North and South Pole. You can walk anywhere in the world. You could walk to Australia. Walk if the oceans were 200 feet lower. Australia would be a peninsula off of Vietnam because the water's very shallow in here. There's a few deep spots. Walk around them. Anyway, so how to get off on all that? When the hot water came shooting out these fountains of the deep, I think the hot water would hit the water around it and kill everything within a certain radius. If you dump a gallon of boiling water into your aquarium, you're going to kill all the fish within a certain effective radius. That's why we find diatoms, super tiny creatures, by the quadrillions that died and snowed to the bottom. Diatoms, unicellular organ, covered cell wall silica. Diatoms occur in hundreds. They can live in fresh as well as salt water and can even survive in soil. They occur in hundreds of different shapes, from 10 millionths to 150 millionths of a meter. They're pretty tiny. The diatomaceous ooze at the bottom of water bodies is formed by the sedimentation of dead diatoms. There's a diatom. Today, diatoms accumulate slowly. It would take 1,000 years to get an inch of diatoms. And yet they sell diatomaceous earth powder. You can buy it at any hardware store. It's used for swimming pool filters, detergents, fertilizer, insulation, soundproofing, all kinds of things, okay? It kills insects because it's such a fine powder. Insects breathe through their skin, through spiracles. It's stuck in the spiracle and it suffocates them. Diatoms plug the spiracle. I went to the world's largest diatomaceous earth quarry in Lompoc, California. There it is right there, right near the San Andreas Fault. Interesting. There at Sea Light Corporation, they have a mountain made of trillions of diatoms. They mine it with huge machinery. It goes for hundreds of miles and is hundreds of feet thick. At the diatomaceous earth quarry, a remarkable discovery was made in 1976. They uncovered the fossil skeleton of a baleen whale, along with trillions of fish fossils. I forgot to bring them to it. I got a bunch in the museum. Fish fossils in diatomaceous earth, okay? The whale fossil was standing on end in the quarry, and it's 80 feet long. Now, the layers were all tilted, as well as the whale. So it probably whale died from the heat also and snowed to the bottom with the diatoms. Then the whole hill got lifted up, okay, along the fountains along the fault line. So now these layers are sloped. There's me cutting one open. Inside you find trillions of fish fossils. Look at all that. Those are all fish fossils. Samples of what soft tissue discovered in fossil in the Jurassic. There's no such thing as a Jurassic period. So you can Google diatomaceous earth and study that for yourself. They're gorgeous under the microscope, like incredible. You think that happened by chance? You're an idiot. Billions of fossils found in diatomaceous earth. You can buy bags of it. I think that happened along the fault lines when the heat temperature changed rapidly from the hot water coming out from inside the earth. And the fossils would snow to the bottom. Not just diatoms, all the dead fish, dead whales, dead everything. Back to Psalm 136. To him who alone doeth great wonders, for his mercy endureth forever. By his wisdom he made the heavens, and his mercy endureth forever. He stretched out the earth above the waters. Yeah. There used to be water in the crust, now it's on top, and used to be water above, and now it's down here. So we don't have a crystal canopy anymore. He made great lights, mercy endureth forever, the sun to rule the day, the moon and stars to rule the night. This psalm is a song they're singing back and forth. To him that smote Egypt in their firstborn, his mercy endureth forever. He brought out Israel from among them. His mercy endureth forever. With a strong hand, with a stretched out arm, he divided the Red Sea into parts, then made Israel pass through the midst of it, but overthrew Pharaoh and his host. And yep, they sure did. They found the place where they crossed. You'd think if a whole army crossed and got drowned in some place, they'd find some parts, skeletons or parts of their chariots, and they sure did. The waters were a wall unto them. Read Exodus 14. Moses held out the stick, the water parted, they walked across on dry ground. It was completely dry. God had a wind go through there and dried it all out. They found human rib cage, arm and hand preserved in the coral. Brown Wyatt, and I believe he did find these things, okay? They found chariot wheels down at the bottom of the Red Sea, covered in coral mostly. It's obviously a chariot axle. Bible says God took off their wheels, and they crossed over to the right there, not to the Red Sea comes up, or Dead Sea comes up, and Red Sea comes up and splits into two fingers. They crossed over in the one on the right. Watch video 7, I covered that. To him which led his people through the wilderness, it goes to the history of Israel now. After they got away from Pharaoh, now they got to wander for 40 years. God has to feed them every day. His mercy endureth forever. He smote great kings. His mercy endureth forever. That would be the book of Joshua and Judges. He slew famous kings. His mercy endureth forever. Sihon, king of the Amorites, Og, king of Bashan, and gave their land for an heritage. That's why it's their land, guys. You Palestinians should leave them alone, okay? Quit trying to take their land. Even an heritage unto Israel, his servant. His mercy endureth forever. Who remembered us in our low estate, his mercy endureth forever. Oh, give thanks. Oh, he hath redeemed us from our enemies, his mercy endureth forever. Who giveth food to all flesh. That's an interesting verse. There's a cycle of food in this world that is, I think, impossible to evolve. The producers and let's see, you got the sun's energy producing the energy that they need for the plants to grow for photosynthesis, and makes the grass grow. The herbivores eat the grasses, plants do. The carnivores, you weren't any before the flood came, they consume it's just a life cycle, goes around. So yeah, I think God designed it all. Okay, any questions or comments, brother? Sorry for going so long. Hope Kent, you and the crew are doing well. My question is, did you know Billy Graham? Did you ever meet him? Never did. He touched my heart, cried. I think he was a great man of God. I think he did a lot of good. I have to disagree with him on a few theological things, but nothing major, nothing major. He was an ally. During World War II, we were allies with the Russians. We disagreed with them on some things, but we had a bigger enemy to fight called Hitler. So it's okay to have allies. I'm an independent fundamental Baptist, okay, to the core. But some of them are so independent, they're even independent from God. They knock it off, guys. You can be friends with other religions. It's okay. Okay, let's see. I've been following you for years, Walter. So has the KGB, the FBI, the Gestapo, the IRS. They're all following me. Let's see. Appreciate your words, bringing the truth to light. Well, thank you. Please spread it around. Is it true the water currently in the firmament? No. Well, the air we're breathing that's what humidity. It'll hold a certain percentage, and then it starts to drip out, either with a drizzle or dew or rain or snow or hail. Or, how else does it come out? Anyway, yeah, there's water in the firmament. All right, see you then. Bye.